For 28 years, my world had shrunk to the four walls of this house and the scent of rubbing alcohol. My husband, Oswin, was my constant, anchoring purpose. I was 78 years old, a grandmother to children I rarely saw, because my life was dedicated to him. My hands, wrinkled and chapped, were my tools. They washed him, turned him, and spoon-fed him lukewarm oatmeal every morning at 6 a.m. sharp. The doctors had called his condition permanent. A severed nerve, a life sentence. And so, it became my life sentence, too. Our small bungalow in rural Wisconsin felt like a clinic, not a home. The living room was dominated by a hospital bed, the fireplace blocked by a hydraulic lift. Oswin hadn't spoken a word since the accident at the lumber mill nearly 3 decades ago. The man I married, the one who loved to dance and tell loud, boisterous jokes, was gone. In his place was a silent vessel I cared for. I managed his pension, I argued with the insurance companies, and I grew old in the quiet, sterile air. That Tuesday started like the 10,220 days before it. I was rinsing Oswin's empty breakfast bowl when I saw my neighbor, Kala, marching across the frozen yard. Kala is one of those new folks from the city, always jogging. She looked agitated, her face pale as she marched right up to my patio door, knocking hard. "Maribel, I'm so sorry to bother you," Kala stammered, stepping inside. "You're a good woman. The way you've cared for him, it's saintly." She wasn't carrying a casserole. She was holding her phone, gripping it so tightly her knuckles were white. She kept glancing nervously down the hall, toward the room where Oswin lay, supposedly unmoving. "What is it, dear?" I asked, drying my hands on my apron. "It's about Oswin," she said, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "I set up a security camera on my back porch. It points toward your driveway. I caught something last night, Maribel. I think you just need to see it." "My Oswin?" I almost laughed. What could he possibly do? Kala winced but held the phone up. "Please," she said. I leaned in. The screen was dark, time-stamped at 3:17 a.m. The video was grainy, black and white. It showed my driveway, slick with frost. And then, the back door of my house creaked open. A shadow moved. It was a man, walking stiffly at first, but walking. He moved to the old shed, fumbled with the lock, and pulled out a small box. The man shook a cigarette from the box and lit it. The small ember glowed, illuminating his face. He stretched his back, rolling his shoulders with a deep, satisfying groan. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a burglar. It was Oswin. My paralyzed husband. My heart didn't just freeze, it shattered. For 28 years I had bathed and fed a man who, in the dead of night, got up to smoke. My entire life, my sacrifice, it was all a lie. The phone clattered from my hand onto the linoleum. Kala gasped, but I didn't hear her. I was hearing the echo of my own life. 28 years. The trips I never took. The books I never read. The grandchildren's birthdays I missed because Oswin had a bad day. I had given up everything to be his hands and feet, and he had been using his own to unlock a shed and smoke. The humiliation was a physical burn, hotter than any anger I had ever known. Kala was talking. "Maribel, should I call the police?" "What is that?" I put a hand up, silencing her. I needed to think. I looked at the man in the hospital bed, his eyes closed, his breathing even. He looked so peaceful, so helpless. The performance of a lifetime. How many times had I cried myself to sleep by his side, praying for a miracle, while he was just waiting for me to fall asleep? The accident at the lumber mill. It was the story our lives were built on. A fallen beam, a crushed spine. The doctors had been so grim. "He'll never walk again, Maribel." We won a massive settlement from the mill's insurance, a permanent disability payout that we lived on. That I lived on. He was living on something else entirely. I remembered the small clues. The times I thought I smelled faint smoke in the mornings and blamed the neighbors. The way the muscles in his paralyzed legs never seemed to waste away as much as the doctor said they should. I'd chalked it up to my diligent care, my massages, my physical therapy. I was a fool. I hadn't been his caregiver, I had been his cover. Maribel? Calla whispered, pulling me back. What are you going to do? I looked at her, my new, clear eyes seeing the world for the first time in decades. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. Not yet. I had to know the full extent of the lie. Calla, I said, my voice as steady as steel, don't say a word to anyone. Keep your camera recording. I'm going to find out what really happens after I go to bed. Maribel is planning to catch him in the act. That evening was the hardest performance of my life. I had to pretend that my world hadn't just been detonated. I went through the motions, my hands shaking almost imperceptibly as I prepared Oswin's dinner. Mashed potatoes and gravy, his supposed favorite. I spooned it into his mouth, the same mouth that had puffed on a cigarette hours earlier. I wanted to gag. I wanted to stab him with the fork. You're quiet tonight, Maribel, he mumbled, his voice thick with disuse. It was the first time in years he'd formed a sentence. Before, I would have cried with joy. Now, I realized he only spoke when he wanted something. Just tired, dear, I said, my voice sweet as poison. A long day. I bathed him, changed his pajamas, and lifted him into the bed. My arms ached, but it wasn't from his weight. It was from the rage. I kissed his forehead, a cold press of lips on his lying skin. Good night, Oswin. He grunted. I went to my own small bedroom down the hall, but I did not go to sleep. I had a plan. I'd found an old baby monitor we'd used for our son, Jareth, decades ago. I'd also propped my small digital camera in the kitchen, hidden behind a stack of cookbooks aimed at the back door. I sat in my armchair in the dark, the receiver of the baby monitor in my lap, my eyes fixed on the hallway. The house was silent. 11 p.m. Midnight. 1 a.m. I must have dozed off, because a sound jolted me awake. It was 3:14 a.m. Static crackled from the monitor, and then, a sound. The click of his bedroom door. My blood ran cold. I heard the faint, practiced shuffling of his feet. He wasn't even trying to be quiet. He thought I was asleep. He thought I was stupid. She's up. He's up. This is it. I didn't move. I just listened. The baby monitor carried every sound. I heard the creak of the hall floorboard I always avoided. I heard the hiss of the refrigerator door opening, the clink of a glass. He was in the kitchen, helping himself to a midnight snack. After 28 years of me mashing his food. The audacity of it choked me. My camera was recording, but I knew I had to see this with my own eyes. I stood up, my old knees cracking, and walked silently down the hall. My heart wasn't pounding. It was heavy, a cold, hard stone in my chest. I reached the kitchen doorway. He was there. His back was to me. He was standing in the moonlight from the window, wearing not his pajamas, but a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. He was pouring a glass of milk. I watched him for a full 10 seconds. I watched his shoulders roll. I watched him take a long, satisfying drink. He was healthy. He was strong. And he was a monster. I see you're feeling better, Oswin, I said. The glass shattered on the floor. He spun around, his hand flying to his chest. His eyes were wide, not with guilt, but with pure, animal panic. He saw me, and his face, which I had only seen as a mask of placid suffering, contorted into a snarl. Maribel! What are you doing up? That's my line, I said, stepping into the kitchen and flipping on the light. The sudden brightness made us both wince. He stood there, frozen, milk dripping down his shirt, surrounded by the shards of his broken lie. How long? I whispered, my voice shaking with a rage so deep it scared me. How long have you been walking? Oswin didn't look ashamed. He looked cornered. He looked annoyed. He wiped the milk from his mouth and his eyes turned cold. Longer than you've known, Maribel. Now, go back to bed. You're ruining the routine. Ruining the routine? The nerve. The routine? I repeated. The word felt absurd. The routine is over, Oswin. His coldness broke something in me. The hurt was gone, replaced by a glacial fury. The video. My neighbor's camera. I saw you, Oswin. Smoking. Stretching. Walking. His face went pale. The jig was up. He slumped into a kitchen chair, and for the first time, he looked like a man, not a patient. A very guilty man. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he muttered. You weren't supposed to find out. Tell me, I demanded, crossing my arms. Start from the beginning. And he did. The confession spilled out of him, not in a torrent of guilt, but in a stream of excuses. The accident had been real. For the first year, he was paralyzed. But then, feelings started to come back. Little twitches. A tingling. He'd been terrified to tell me, not because he was scared, but because the insurance money was so good. The lumber mill's settlement was contingent on permanent, total disability. If I got better, the money would stop, he said, looking at me as if I were the one being unreasonable. It was for us, Maribel. This house, the bills, your life. I did it for you. For me? I laughed, a bitter, rusty sound. You did this to me. My life? I have no life, Oswin. I've been your nurse. Your servant. While you, what? Snuck out to live? It wasn't like that, he insisted, but his eyes darted away. It was just easier to let you keep taking care of things. You were so good at it. You liked it. He blamed me. He said I smothered him, that I wanted him to be helpless. He admitted the money was almost gone. I was floored. Gone? How? We live on oatmeal and Jell-O. He wouldn't look at me. A man has needs, Maribel. That pension wasn't enough. He had been living a second life. And I had a sickening feeling I knew what that meant. He blamed her? And the money is gone? A second life? I asked, but I already knew. While I was in my room, he wasn't just smoking. He was leaving. The truck, I whispered, remembering our old, broken-down Ford that sat in the shed. It's been out of gas for 10 years. I fixed it, he said, defiant. A man's got to have a hobby. While he slept, I did not. I waited until he was snoring, a real, deep sleep, not the frail nap of an invalid, and I went to the shed. The key was exactly where Kala's video showed him hiding it, under a loose brick. Inside, it smelled of gasoline and cheap cigars. There, under a pile of filthy tarps, was his hobby. A locked metal file box. It wasn't hard to open. A hammer did the trick. Inside was his real life. Bank statements from an account I never knew existed. Thousands of dollars. Payments to motels in the next county. A recurring monthly payment to a Ms. Trina Lowell. A woman. He wasn't just faking being paralyzed, he was faking our entire marriage. My son, Jareth. I had to call my son. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking so badly I could barely dial. Jareth lived 3 hours away, a life I was barely part of because Dad needed me. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice groggy. Mom? It's 4 a.m. Is it Dad? Is he okay? Oh, he's fine, honey, I said, my voice cracking with a terrible, hollow laugh. Your father is just fine. But I need you to come. I need you to come right now. I sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by the evidence of his betrayal, and waited for the sun to come up. When Oswin woke up at 7 a.m., I was sitting right there. Morning, dear, I said, holding up a bank statement. Time for your sponge bath? Jareth is on his way and Maribel has the receipts. The family is about to explode. Jareth arrived at 10 a.m., his car skidding on the gravel driveway. He ran into the house, his face a mask of panic, expecting to find his father dead or me collapsed. Instead, he found Oswin sitting up in his hospital bed, reading the newspaper. And me, sitting in a chair, holding a stack of bank statements. Mom? What's going on? You sounded. She's lost her mind, Jareth, Oswin said, folding the paper. She's having delusions. Am I? I said. I stood up and walked to the hospital bed. Jareth, I think it's time you and your father had a real talk. Why don't you start, Oswin? Why don't you show him your party trick? Oswin's face turned purple. Maribel, don't. Or I can, I said. I grabbed the covers and, with a strength I didn't know I had, ripped them off the bed. Get up, Oswin. Show your son. Get up. Oswin looked at Jareth, then at me. Slowly, awkwardly, he swung his legs, his strong, healthy legs, over the side of the bed and stood up. Jareth made a sound like he'd been punched in the gut. Dad? What the hell is this? He's been walking, Jareth, I said, my voice flat. For at least 27 years. He's been stealing from us. He's been seeing another woman. Our whole life has been a lie. Jareth looked at his father. The shock on his face turned to a deep, profound rage. You let her. You let her waste her life on you. I missed Christmases. My kids barely know their grandma because she was always too busy caring for you. Mind your own business, boy. Oswin snapped. My business? Jareth roared. My mother gave up everything for you. And you were at a motel? The argument was brutal. But then Jareth turned to me, his eyes full of a different pain. And you, Mom. Why did you let him? Why did you always choose him over us? You sacrificed us, too. That hit me harder than the video. He was right. In my martyrdom, I had pushed everyone away. I had sacrificed my son's family for a lie. Out, I whispered. Both of you. Out of my house. This is heartbreaking. Her son is right, too. What can Maribel even do now? She's lost everything. Or has she? Jareth was stunned. Mom, I'm here for you. I'm on your side. No, I said, my voice gaining strength. You're here for your own anger. You've said your piece. Now, I need to do this myself. Please, Jareth. Go. I will call you tonight. He hesitated, his face torn, but he saw the steel in my eyes. He nodded, kissed my cheek, and left. Now, it was just me and Oswin. He was standing by the empty hospital bed, looking small and pathetic. The power was gone. Maribel, he started, baby, we can fix this. Trina meant nothing. The money, we can earn it back. We? I cut him off. There is no we. There is only you, Oswin. A liar. A thief. A fraud. I picked up my phone. "What are you doing?" he asked, panic creeping into his voice. "I'm making a few calls," I said. My first call was to Kala. "Kala, dear. I need that video file. The whole thing. And would you be willing to be a witness?" My second call was to the Lumber Mills Insurance Company. I asked for the fraud department. I explained that I was the wife of Oswin Miller, and I had new information about his permanent disability case. I gave them my lawyer's number. My third call was to that lawyer. "I need to file for divorce," I said. "And I need to report a crime." Oswin lunged for the phone. "Maribel, you can't. You'll ruin us. We'll lose the house. They'll send me to jail." I pulled the phone away. "This is not US. This is you. You ruined yourself. You stole my life, and you are going to pay it back. Starting with this house." "But where will you go?" he shouted. I looked around the room at the sterile equipment, the sad, beige walls. This was never my home, Oswin. It was my prison. And I'm leaving. "Yes, Maribel. She is taking no prisoners." "Where will she go? What will happen to Oswin?" I didn't pack much. What was there to pack? My clothes were 20 years old. The house was filled with his things, his lies. I went to the kitchen cookie jar, where I'd stashed my secret grocery money for decades. There was $478 in cash. I took it all. I packed one small suitcase with my best clothes, my toiletries, and the framed photo of Jareth and his kids. I left the ones of me and Oswin on the wall. They were part of the lie. Oswin was following me from room to room, his voice getting more desperate. He was begging. He was crying. "Maribel, think about our history. Think about the good times." I said, zipping the bag. "And I can't remember a single one that was real." Then he got angry. "You'll be back. You're 78 years old. You have nothing. You'll be back by dinner." I stopped at the front door. I looked at this man I had loved, bathed, and fed. "No, Oswin. I won't. You are right, I am 78 years old. I don't know how many years I have left. But I promise you, I will not spend one more of them looking at your face." He was still shouting as I walked down the path. I got into my 15-year-old car, the one I only ever drove to the pharmacy and the grocery store. The gas tank was half full. I started the engine. I pulled out of the driveway. I had no plan. I had no home. I had $478 and a half tank of gas. I was 78 years old and completely, utterly alone. I looked in the rearview mirror. Oswin was standing on the porch, a man in jeans, watching his entire life crumble. For the first time in 28 years, I pressed the gas pedal, and I didn't feel fear. I felt free. Free. But what's next? I am narrating this to you from a cafe. It's 6 months later. The coffee is strong, and there is a warm breeze coming through the open window. It's a nice change from the bitter cold of Wisconsin. The fallout was messy. The insurance company sued Oswin for 27 years of fraudulent claims. The state charged him with fraud. They took the house, the car, and every penny he had hidden. He was found guilty. He's in a state facility now, a real one. I hear he doesn't like the food. My divorce lawyer was a shark. As a victim of his fraud, I was entitled to a settlement, a portion of what the state recovered. It wasn't a lottery, but it was enough. Jareth and we're working on it. We're in therapy together. We talk on the phone every day. He's angry at his father for the lies, but he's angry at me for the time we lost. And he's right. I'm spending Christmas with him and my grandchildren this year. For the whole month. But this story isn't about Oswin. And it's not really about Jareth. It's about me. I moved into a small, sunny apartment in a retirement community. In Florida. I've made friends. I joined a book club. I am learning how to swim. My neighbor, Kala, God bless her, flew down to visit me. We drank margaritas on my tiny balcony. Today, I'm at the airport. My hair is cut short, and I'm wearing bright red lipstick. My suitcase is at my feet. In my hand, I have a passport. It's the first one I've ever owned. My flight boards in 1 hour. My name is Maribel Miller. I wasted 28 years of my life. I will not waste another day. The flight attendant just called my zone. I'm going to Italy. Thank you for watching Maribel's story. What was your favorite part of her journey? Let me know in the comments. And remember, it is never too late to start a new chapter. Like and subscribe for more stories.